before we do the discussion on the land use as well as the topics, as well as the related to the topics is the issues, the areas of the area which, I mean, supposing we take I'm trying to think something that we haven't taken before. Supposing you take climatology, just for sheer hell of it, then we need to investigate. We need to decide what kind of tasks we're going to construct around the climatology topic. Okay, so there's land use topics and then the tasks. Now, so that will be the last part of today. But the middle part, after Young Hoan goes, I will just share a couple of ideas that if I were back in school, I would like to try, but I'm not in school, so I had no chance to try. Okay, just to get you thinking, but not to say that you must adopt it this way. Okay, so there'll be 3 parts to today. Okay, so Young Hoan.
Hello, so I will present about psychological research plan in 2012. So the purpose of this study is to examine the effectiveness of 2 instructional models of Second Life with a traditional conventional instructional method, that is the teacher-directed instruction. So the purpose is comparing Second Life with the traditional one, teacher-directed instruction. It's the study conducted by Dr. Hogan in NIE. This study shows that Singaporean teachers are more interested, more focused on basic rote knowledge and reproduction of knowledge, and assess the function of what students learn, what teacher says. So this study shows that in many Singaporean schools, teachers more focus on basic knowledge or that. This table also shows the typical instructional method in Singapore schools. The data were analyzed from the video clip. So they took a video in the classroom and analyzed the teaching behaviors. So the most frequent teaching activities, there are 3 activities: whole class lecture and whole class answer checking. So teacher asks a question and student answer the question. The last one is the individual sheet work. So in mathematics classroom, maybe teacher explain how to solve the 2-digit math problem, and then give the practice problem, and students solve it and give the feedback. So it's a typical instructional method. So Singapore teachers are likely to focus on the reproduction of basic and factual knowledge, and mainly use the 3 instructional method: whole class lecture, whole class answer checking, and individual sheet work. So broadly, I can say it's a teacher-directed instruction. I know there is some teachers more interested in student-centered learning. There are some changes because this data was collected in 2004 and 5. So there may be some difference between this year and 5 or 6 years ago. But we can say conventionally, so teaching activities focus on these activities. So I want to contrast these teaching activities with Second Life-based instruction. So can I explain Second Life supports the environment, supports these 6 activities: learning by exploring, collaborating, being, building, championing, and expressing. So Second Life is a very good and effective environment that supports these kind of activities. So we planned 2 collaborative activities using Second Life. The first one is a collaborative inquiry. So in this activity, students learn by collaboratively exploring and building in Second Life. So 3 students may collaborate together to build objects or to explore the Second Life together and conduct some tasks or solve the problem given by a teacher. The next one is collaborative observation. So in this condition, students learn by collaboratively observe activities, particularly teacher activities in Second Life. In this condition, students will study in normal classroom. In the normal classroom, teacher shows the Second Life and teacher do some activity in the Second Life, exploring or building in Second Life, and students observe the activities. And then they will discuss about the activity and they have some small group work. So I say collaborative observation as a CO. So CO is practically useful. For example, there are a few technical issues and we need only one account, and teacher can use a normal classroom, and teacher can also have a more control, so it's easier to manage the classroom activities. So and teacher can prevent students from doing some off tasks, so more focused on tasks. It's some practical usefulness of CO, but there is a limitation. So students can be less motivated by collaborative observation because they have a lower autonomy. So some Second Life observation is designed by teacher rather than students. So autonomy level is low, and there is a lack of direct experience in Second Life. So it's actually different from the learning by exploring, learning by building, that kind of 6 learning framework. And in collaborative observation, there is a limitation in developing intuition and experimenting. So students, it's a little bit the middle of traditional one and very student-centered one. So students observe what teacher doing in Second Life, and then discuss how to solve that problem, and so that kind of activities. We can compare these 3 groups, 3 conditions according to main resource, activity, task, autonomy, collaboration, and venue. So in teacher direct instruction, main resource is a textbook and teacher. The main activity is a whole class lecture and answering and individual seat work. And task is understanding the knowledge in textbook. So knowledge is given by textbook and by a teacher, and students try to understand it, receive that knowledge. So autonomy level and collaboration level is all low level, and venue is a classroom. In CO, collaborative observation condition, the main resource is a Second Life and peer, and maybe teacher is also main resource. And activities, whole class observation, small group work, and whole class discussion. And task is solving problem, it's open-ended problem solving, and autonomy and collaboration level or medium level. And value is a classroom. The last condition, main resources, Second Life and peers, and activities of exploring and building, small group work and whole class discussion, and open-ended problem solving, and high autonomy and collaboration level, and venue is computer room. So it's the overview of 3 conditions. So I think of some process. So process can be flexible depending on the topic or depending on the schools, but it's I would like to suggest this process. In the teacher-directed instruction, teacher will do some whole class lecture, like me. So I explain this one. And then maybe I can ask a question to you. So what would you define what is a CO, collaborative observation? What is the difference between CO and CI? And you will answer the question. And then I can give you some individual sheet work. So I will give you a worksheet, and you can write the answer. And I will give you the feedback about your answers. It's the procedure of a teacher-directed instruction. And collaborative observation is teacher starts from a problem. So the problem is an open-ended one, and it will be good if the problem is a real-world problem or authentic one. And then, so problem should have a context. And then the teacher will discuss with the students about the problem. So in order to solve this problem, what is needed, that kind of discussion about the problem. And then students, teacher will show the second line. And in the second line, teacher will do some activities to solve the problem. But the activity can be failure example. The activity do not need to be good one. It could be some low level activity or some failure to solve the problem.
I need to ask a question here because I really like what I'm seeing, but that in the failure experience, does the teacher alert the pupils to the fact that it's a failure or not? In other words, does the teacher just pretend as if everything is happening well, even though it's a failure experience?
It's better to show that some failure experience expressed, I think.
Okay, so
because,
it's
yeah.
So, thank you. Hey, thanks so much for taking time to come. The Chongwon team, no, not Chongwon team, but the Green team. Yeah, the VP. So,
yeah. It's basically you can show the failure experience and then ask the students, what do you think, what makes this failure? And how will you improve the performance? So then students can move to that kind of discussion activities. So in CI condition, students learn by having failure experience by themselves. They try to build something and they do some experimentation. And from that experimentation, they have the failure experience. And that experience can be productive. But in CO condition, teachers show that kind of a failure experience. And students observe that one. And then next step is a small group discussion. So what makes the problem and the difficulty, failure experience, and how to solve the problem. So students can do some small group discussion. And then the last one is a full class discussion, and teacher can make some connection between this activity and the contents in the textbook. So kind of consolidation. In the last condition, in CI condition, teacher will give the same problem and discuss about the problem to analyze it. And then small groups, groups of 3, will explore the second line and build some object or some activities. And then small groups will reflect on their activities. So
to answer that question, both last week as well as this week, you keep saying the group size is 3. Is there a particular reason behind 3, or are you just saying this as a legacy from maybe your previous experience?
Yeah, groups can be bigger than 3.
Yeah. So
it's just based on my personal experience. So in 3, yeah, but it could be bigger than 3. Because I remember that in the previous studies, yeah, so group size was 3. Yeah, so but it could be bigger, or pairs, or maybe okay, but it depends on the context. And then the last stage is a full class sharing and consolidation. So teacher make some connection between their activities and some textbook content. So initially I tried to show you the video clip, but the video clip is not good one. So I will explain the content of the video. The content of the video is that someone built some sustainable village. So it's a very friendly for environment. So using some sun energy and make a power. So that kind of thing. And then in this kind of case, maybe we can get this kind of problem. If you want to make a new facility in this village, so what kind of facility do you want to make? And explain why it is necessary and appropriate in this village. So my point is that the problem should be more open-ended. So open-ended means there could be many answers, and many answers can be right. So there is no one single answer, correct answer. So it's open-ended. And in the CI condition, I think we can use the same test. But actually, in the morning I discussed about this issue. So one concern is that whether we can apply the same test to CO and CI condition, or is it better to flexibly use so A topic is more beneficial for CO condition, or B topic is more beneficial for CI condition. So it could be possible. So in this stage, I think it's better to compare CO with the traditional one, CO with the teacher-directed one, and CI with the teacher-directed one. So last meeting we talked that comparing 3 conditions at the one time, but it may require more efforts, and sometimes depending on topics, it is hard to compare CO with CI. So mainly at this stage, I think it's a good idea to compare teacher-directed one with the CO, or teacher-directed one with the CI. That makes the research design simpler. It's simple and reduce the schoolwork load. It's a research procedure. So it should be elaborated more, but it's briefly I'm going to show the procedure. The first step is pre-test. So test may include cognitive one and affective one, and some perception, cognitive and affective one. And then students will do some learning activity through in 3 conditions, so 1 over 3. And we will record some the teaching and learning activities, but it depends on the school context. So if it is possible, and then it's a good idea to observe what's happening in the classroom. And then, but in 3 conditions, we should control these 4 variables. So these 4 variables should be same in 3 conditions. The first one is a student's competency. So like streams. So I will say second life condition, and in TD, teacher-directed instruction condition, students' stream should be same. So that means their competency level is very similar, not much different. And the second one is demographic features. So their gender or age should be similar. So it's a not good one. In one condition, there are most students are males. In the other condition, most students are females. Then it is hard to compare 2 conditions. So demographic features should be similar, not exactly the same, but similar. And
What?
No, you see, you're talking about that demographic features. It's something that is not within our control, because if you're looking at classes per se, which has been kind of allocated, the students are.
I think we have to relax the gender ratio, but I think the streams at the age are okay. But we have to relax the gender, the sex ratio.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And the other one is a total time. So in 3 conditions, so the total time should be similar, or it's good to make it same. And topic, so the teaching topic should be same across the 3 conditions or across 2 conditions.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So from here, I assume that the traditional teaching will also be videoed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we will do some post-test to compare pre-test result with the post-test result. And we will do some surveys about their perception about their activities into Second Life conditions or in traditional conditions. So perception about their autonomy, and their collaborative learning. And I'm not sure about delayed post-test. So if it is possible or available in local schools, so I recommend to do this one. But if it is not available in local schools,
would it be a dispositional post-test or a content-based post-test?
Content-based.
Okay.
So likewise, one.
Likewise, the pretest you said something earlier, but I didn't catch it properly. I
So
forgot.
I will explain about the test types. Okay. So there are 3 kinds of test or survey. So the first one is cognitive learning outcomes, is including content knowledge. So actually the first 2 one is comprehension and inference. These 2 are related to content knowledge. So comprehension level is lower level and inference level is a higher level, requires a higher order thinking. So they are based on contents. So comprehension is like in the textbook, you give a question type. So would you define what is a collaborative observation? So that kind of definition problem is a comprehension problem. And inference problem is about some prediction. So students should make some inference beyond the given text. So for example,
it's okay. I think we have.
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of inferring in geography.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last thing is authentic problem solving. So it's a kind of case problem. It's a very open-ended one, and it requires some argumentation. So the problem in Second Life. So if you make a new facility in this village, what facility can be appropriate and necessary? So students should make some argumentation there, and then support that argumentation with other evidence.
Okay. So this is even valid for the pre-test, is it?
Yeah.
What about the problem that in the pre-test, almost by definition, the learners would not be able to answer many of the questions? Is that a valid concern?
So if there is I think it depends on the subject and context. If it is a serious problem, then we can measure, use a different method. But we can use format should maybe similar, but the contents can be different in pre-test and post-test. And that concern should be discussed more. But usually in experiment or quasi-experimental research, we use a similar test items.
Yeah, because the problem we ran into last year was that we were obliged to do a pre and a post. People maybe want to elaborate on the problem.
Okay, because these are Sec 1 students, so they have really no idea about what the topic is all about, the subject.
So, in that case, one alternative measurement is that give it one concept.
Uh-huh.
What is a concept in geography?
We were doing like map reading and rivers.
Actually, let me propose a solution. For the pretest, can there not be any comprehension and inference, and just go? Can the pretest just for the cognitive part of the pretest just do a problem solving?
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, that's one, and it's possible.
So
even
it's dissolved in
pretest.
that naive way.
And the other way is give just one concept, like map, and then we can do it here. So would you write concepts as many as possible related to map?
Also come out with keywords.
Yeah, keywords. So some people write a lot of keywords if they have a lot of knowledge about their topic.
Yeah, that can be done also, I think.
Some people may not write one or two.
Yeah, people. Yeah. How about the rest of it? How about you're planning to do at what level? Okay. Okay. Thanks. Thank you for the trust.
No, but in terms of the PBL, I'm just wondering how do you then measure in terms of yeah.
So there is a rubric
okay.
to analyze the argumentation quality. So sometimes children just argue something without any evidence or reasons. But in CO and CI condition, students do some collaboration activity. And we can expect that in that collaboration, they give us some argumentation. So compare multiple perspectives and support their claim with some reasons. So that kind of activity, I believe that beneficial for problem solving.
I think I'm okay. Yeah, I think for the time being we leave it for this. I think we are okay. I'll be okay if it's like just generating keywords and problem solving.
Yeah, there's a common. Yeah.
But not conceptual understanding, because
Yeah.
by definition they will have no conceptual understanding. Yeah.
And the second one is effective learning outcomes, so self-efficacy and motivation and attitude. These effective ones are also emphasized in 21st century competency and skills. So,
Spencer, you're right with this.
As it is, we are fine. It looks okay. Only on the cognitive, I think we need to discuss further. Because it's not, the test will not be valid because the students don't have the content or
Yeah,
stuff.
I think we just if we are okay having no content testing, no explicit content testing for the pre, I think it should be okay. Yeah.
the last one is a perception about the process, learning process. So autonomy and collaborative learning. So these two things, survey items will be prepared by NIE. So the first one about content knowledge and so problem solving, collaboration is necessary between NIE and local schools.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about the politics of this. I'm going to endorse the instruments being prepared by NIE. Okay, we will share them with DTT, but I think we will be the primary designer of the instrument. Okay, yeah, because we have his expertise, whereas last year we did not have his expertise. Okay, yeah.
So, so these are 21 CC, and there is a self-awareness and confidence. These important keywords are maybe matching with our measurement or survey items. And yeah, that's all that I prepared. Actually, the last slide is about some discussion topics. After I leave this meeting room, maybe you can discuss about problem, what kind of problem can be used, and what kind of knowledge and skills are necessary to solve that problem. And in CI condition, what kind of activities will students do in Second Life, and what kind of resource and guidance will be provided to students. About the last one, CO condition, we can discuss what teachers will show students. And I suggest that it's good to show some failure experience, and then students think about what makes that failure and how to improve the performance. It's a good strategy. So, and Do you have any question about I presented?
Maybe for the benefit of adult brain, show the table, the comparative table again, because they didn't, so that they know so they have understanding of the difference between CI and CO. Chachun, CI is not our CI. It's a different kind of thing. So, Young Hoan, you have to. I don't want to steal your show. You take them through the table again, but direct your talk specifically to adult brain, because they came in after this slide.
Okay. So in this research, there are three conditions: TD, CO, CI condition. TD is a teacher-directed one. Main resource is textbook and teacher. So teacher, the activity is a whole class lecture. So teacher explain the concept or principle in the textbook, and then whole class answer. So teacher will ask a question to students. The students answer the question. That kind of interaction between students and teacher. And students will give us some practice problem. And then the students solve it on the worksheet, that kind of activity. And the main task is understanding the knowledge given in the textbook. So knowledge is given by teacher or by a textbook. Instead, students construct their knowledge. So autonomy and collaboration levels are low. So it's a teacher-directed one. Value is classroom. But in CO condition, the main resource is a second line, peer, and teacher. I should add a teacher, because the teacher will show his or her activities in second line.
CO is abbreviation for?
CO, collaborative observation.
The O is observation.
And CI is collaborative investigation.
Inquiry investigation.
Yeah. Collaborative observation. So first, a teacher will provide a problem and discuss about the problem, how to solve it, how to do this task. And then teacher shows his or her activities or performance in the second line, and students observe that one in the classroom. And then students will do some small group activities, small group discussion, or they can solve the problem, or small group activities. After that small group activities, there is a whole class discussion and consolidation. So teacher will make some connection, and each team can briefly present their solution in the second line. It depends on the time in the classroom. If there is a time limitation, they just present their ideas very briefly. But if time is available, then each group can go in front of the classroom and show their solution in the second line. Then students observe the other students' behavior or problem-solving performance in the second line. But yeah, it depends.
For the VP's benefit, show the slide previous to this, because the reason why we are having collaborative observation is because although there are some drawbacks to collaborative, there are also some pretty compelling advantages. So we want to try this pedagogy as well, okay? Because collaborative observation is a lot more logistically feasible. Yeah.
So they are basically just observers of the whole process.
To the last part, the consolidation, as you were saying, if time permits, then a good teacher would invite certain groups. The way we usually do it, the groups come forward and present. Because
to present or to try to build anything?
No, not to. It can be depending on the nature of task. But basically, the problem we are trying to solve here is the problem of the majority of rooms in a school being typical classrooms. And then the assumption has always been that you cannot do a Second Life lesson unless you're in a comm lab. You can't do it in a typical classroom like this where there's only one projector and there's only one. So we are trying to investigate whether this kind of pedagogy is feasible as well as workable from a learning point of view. Yeah.
So basically it's taking an observation standpoint, and then somebody tries to build something
something in
front
the
of
second
them,
line.
and then
Yeah.
all of them just look on that.
Yeah,
No, but there's
observe.
critique and discussion.
Yeah,
Observing, yeah, after
but it's not, the
observation,
critique and discussion takes place in a normal classroom setting as opposed to in the comm lab.
Okay, my question here is, who then enacts
The problem, right?
the problem?
Yeah, the initial enactment of the problem is done by the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, then just as in the normal regular classroom, the initial enactment of would be the exposition and the would be, and then we for example just to use the classic example of the stupid oxbow leg. So supposing I form an oxbow leg and but then I form it in the wrong in a geomorphologically inaccurate position, and then I will ask them, can anybody spot can anybody spot a problem with the way that I formed the landscape? Okay, and then if you cannot spot, I will try and throw a few hints as a good expert would, and then get them discussing, and then I would ask for, okay, you guys, how would you come and do it? And then maybe we pick one or two groups, and then they will come up to the front of that table, teacher's desk, and do it. That could be one way. Okay? Yeah. So it's just as we would normally operate in a normal classroom without SL, except this time we're using.
So
Yeah.
the exemplar and the going through usually is the teacher doing.
Correct.
the
Except
or
for
could
the
it
very
be-
novel thing that it's not an exemplar.
It's not an exemplar. but
It's a productive fail. It's an opportunity of. It's an yeah. It's productive failure, like
But even productive failure is enacted by the teacher.
exactly.
Yeah.
Initially,
But
Ah.
so the teacher could also involve some group to do it.
can
But okay.
depending on the ability of the class.
So
Can.
yeah, one other question that I had when you were talking about it was, is there any opportunity for CO to actually come very close to being a CI?
Such as.
For example, if the teacher bridges and then ask a child to go up to perform it, and then the child is actually building, even though that is a component of the entire class, but that for that group is essentially a CI.
Yes, for that group, it's essentially a CI.
Yeah. So
But the
There is a difference.
I agree. The difference is in the projective identity, because from a theoretical standpoint, CI leverages projective identity because it is almost entirely it's basically classical one-to-one computing. CO does not leverage projective identity at all, only to the extent that the person behind the mouse is having his projective identity leveraged. But for the rest of us, we are all observers. But we are still learning. It's just that we are learning with SL in a different way. We are learning by discussion and by letting our ideas be interrogated by our peers. Okay, Chachun, you're all right? Yeah? Okay.
So in
Yeah,
that case,
please.
a further question then is because we're talking about a group size of 3 people,
Not necessarily.
or even 2,
yeah.
then the same aspect of projected identity, because now they are sharing.
That's why.
we compromise.
Correct. I agree with you. I agree. That's why when he keeps, that's why I asked him. Because I think CI should be one-on-one. So for your case, we should. I do not unless you have to work out something about your mobile cards and your okay. But I think it shouldn't be a problem because yesterday Bonfong told me it's okay. You can use a lab. I think there's a lab he can set aside for you. Yeah. So for CI, it is one-on-one now. We've actually tried. The only exception is for the map literacy one. The map literacy one where they do the contour sketching. I'm mindful of your time. We should go soon. So the map literacy one where they do the contour sketching, then that one is pair work, and that one is necessarily pair work because they need to have 2 monitors side by side showing 2 different views. Yeah. But most of CI will be one-on-one. Yeah.
Okay.
How different is it from the CO with the traditional lesson? Let's say I give them a PowerPoint lab project and they present it.
You mean the difference
The
between
TD,
CO and TD?
TD, yes.
So in TD, the main activities are individual.
No.
If I'm going to teach, I will make them do group work and I make them do presentation.
Yeah, but in this research condition,
Yeah.
so because we would like to represent so
It is a question of just medium. I mean, the
so
way I
that
look at
means
it.
your teaching is not teacher directed.
Okay, so there's actually so Young Hoan, so there's actually possibly a problem because Philippine is deploying the upper sec class, so they would probably their teachers are very good. Otherwise they wouldn't be. Sorry, that's not to demean the sorry, they put it wrongly. But you know what I'm trying to say,
Even
the
at
stakes
the
are
lower
slightly
sec,
high.
I will do it.
No, I know, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay, I'm sorry. No, but you know what I'm trying to say, the stakes are higher there,
No, you see, because it will affect the research in terms of how I present
No,
it in
I
my
understand. I'm
class.
trying to support you.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm just saying that I'm supporting you by making one of my usual political gaffes. Anyway, so their teachers will be good. So even their teachers, if they don't use SL, their teaching practice will not necessarily be entirely teaching. That's what I'm trying to say,
Yes. That brings me to another question, which is similar to the last one. Sorry for belaboring this kind of relationships, but the CO and CI crossover is less worrying than the COTD crossover. Why? Because some, as we know, our teachers sometimes, even if it's meant to be a collaborative and HOT, higher order thinking kind of lesson, we can very well teach it like it's a TD.
Yeah.
Right? So we can say, we can elicit, it can be an IRE structure where we elicit and then we give them a response, even though we have the oxbow link and then it's a productive failure situation.
So you're saying that a CO lesson runs a higher danger of being teacher. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I guess we are doing it, because we're not.
No, that leads me to a question, whether or not our people in the intervention can take part in, let's say, one afternoon of just going over questioning techniques that could make a good, discussion.
I would love to. Every fiber in my body is saying that you guys are really good enough.
I'm telling you, we can't assume that because I've gone into classrooms.
Assuming
even their classrooms. Let's say I've been in, then there are opportunities.
Dr. Cho,
the chances.